The ship landed with a soft sound on the white stone platform. Kang Tae-ho looked through the small window and saw the imperial palace of the Valari Empire for the first time. It was beautiful beyond words. Tall towers made of silver metal reached up toward the purple sky. Gardens filled with glowing plants spread out in every direction. Fountains of liquid light danced in the air. Tae-ho was not here to enjoy the view. He was a cargo handler, a simple worker who moved boxes from one place to another. His job was to deliver rare goods from Earth to whoever paid enough credits for them. He stood up from his seat and stretched his tired muscles. The journey from Earth had taken 3 weeks. 3 weeks of eating bad food. 3 weeks of sleeping in a small cabin. 3 weeks of being alone with his thoughts. The other crew members were already moving toward the cargo hold. There were 4 of them. Captain Park Jun was a big man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been flying cargo ships for 30 years. Navigator Kim Soo-min was young and smart. She could calculate jump coordinates faster than the ship's computer. Engineer Big Hyun never smiled, but he kept the old ship running when it should have fallen apart long ago. And then there was Tae-ho, the youngest of them all at 25 years old. "Move fast," Captain Jun said. "The Valari do not like waiting, and this delivery is for the Imperial Palace itself." Tae-ho nodded and followed the others. He had never been to the Valari homeworld before. Most humans had not. The Valari Empire was one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the known galaxy. They had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. The Valari themselves were tall beings with pale, blue skin and large dark eyes. They moved with grace that made every other species look clumsy. They lived for hundreds of years. They had technology that humans could barely understand. And they ruled over 200 star systems. Humans, on the other hand, had only discovered faster than light travel 60 years ago. They controlled just 12 colony worlds. In the great game of galactic politics, humans were small players, newcomers, children compared to the ancient empires. The cargo hold doors opened, and warm air flowed in. It smelled sweet, like flowers Tae-ho had never seen. He grabbed the handle of a hover cart, loaded with sealed containers. Inside those containers were items from Earth: coffee beans, silk fabric, wooden carvings, honey, things that seemed simple to humans but were rare treasures to aliens who had never known Earth. A group of Valari officials waited at the bottom of the landing ramp. They wore long robes of silver and gold. Their expressions were calm and cold. One of them, a female with markings on her forehead that showed high rank, stepped forward. "You are the Earth traders?" she asked. Her voice was musical, but carried no warmth. Captain Jun bowed his head. "Yes, honored one. We bring the goods requested by the imperial household." The official looked at the hover carts. Then she looked at the humans. Her dark eyes passed over each of them without interest. When her gaze reached Tae-ho, she did not pause. He was just another human. Just another face. Nothing special. "Follow me," she said. "You will deliver the goods to the receiving hall. You will not speak unless spoken to. You will not touch anything. You will not look directly at any member of the imperial family. Is this understood?" "Yes, honored one," Captain Jun said. They followed the official through the palace grounds. Tae-ho tried not to stare, but it was hard. Everything was so beautiful. The buildings seemed to grow from the ground like living things. The paths were made of stone that glowed softly under their feet. Valari nobles walked past them, barely giving the humans a glance. To them, "We are nothing," Tae-ho thought. Just insects carrying boxes. He did not feel angry about this. It was simply how things were. The Valari had earned their pride through millions of years of civilization. What had humans done? They had barely stepped out of their own solar system. They were still learning how to survive in a galaxy full of beings far more advanced than themselves. The receiving hall was a massive chamber with ceilings so high that Taiho could barely see the top. Pillars of crystal lined the walls. Hundreds of Velari moved about, conducting business, making deals, seeking audiences with those in power. At the far end of the hall, raised on a platform of pure white stone, sat a throne. And on that throne sat Empress Selen. Taiho had seen pictures of her before. Every human had. She was the ruler of 200 worlds. Her word was law for billions of beings. She had been Empress for over 400 years, and it was said she would rule for 400 more. In person, she was even more impressive. Her pale blue skin seemed to glow with inner light. Her dark eyes held wisdom that came from centuries of life. She wore simple white robes, but there was no mistaking her power. She did not need gold or jewels to show her status. Her presence alone was enough. The official led them to a spot near the wall, far from the throne. Wait here. Someone will come to inspect and accept your cargo. Captain June bowed again. The official walked away without another word. They waited. Minutes passed. Then an hour. The Velari around them continued their business, paying no attention to the small group of humans standing against the wall. Taiho watched the Empress from the corner of his eye. She was speaking with various nobles and officials. Each one approached her with deep bows and careful words. Each one left her presence walking backward, never turning their back on her. Once, just once, her eyes swept across the hall and passed over the spot where Taiho stood. For half a heartbeat, her gaze touched him. She did not react. She did not pause. She simply looked past him as if he were part of the wall. Then she returned her attention to the noble speaking to her. Taiho felt a strange feeling in his chest. It was not hurt. It was not anger. It was something else. A memory. A shadow of a story his mother had told him when he was a child. His mother, Kang Yuna, had died 5 years ago. She had been a quiet woman who never talked about her past. She had raised Taiho alone on a small farm in Korea. She had taught him to work hard and expect nothing from others. She had told him that the universe was vast and humans were small, but that being small did not mean being worthless. Only once had she mentioned the Velari. Taiho had been 10 years old. He had asked her if she had ever been to space. His mother had smiled a sad smile. Once, she had said. A long time ago. Before you were born. What was it like? Young Taiho had asked. It was beautiful and terrible, she had answered. I did something there. Something important. But it does not matter now. What matters is here. What matters is you. She had never spoken of it again. And Taiho had never asked. He had thought it was just a dream, just a story. His mother had been a farmer, a simple woman. What could she have possibly done among the stars? But now, standing in the imperial palace of the Velari Empire, Taiho wondered. His mother had kept many things to herself. She had secrets that she took to her grave. Could one of those secrets have brought her here, to this very place, all those years ago? He shook his head. It was a foolish thought. There were billions of Velari and billions of humans. The odds that his mother had any connection to the Empress were impossibly small. Finally, an inspector came to check their cargo. He opened each container and examined the contents. Coffee beans were smelled and approved. Silk fabric was touched and accepted. Wooden carvings were studied with great interest. Honey was tasted and declared excellent. The imperial household is pleased, the inspector said. Payment will be transferred to your ship's account. You may leave. Captain June bowed. Thank you, honored one. They began to turn toward the exit. Taiho took one last look at the Empress on her distant throne. She was speaking to a military commander now. discussing something that made her frown. Then something happened. A young official, hurrying across the hall, bumped into Tai-ho. The impact knocked a data tablet from the official's hands. It fell to the floor with a loud clatter that echoed through the chamber. Everyone nearby turned to look. The young official's face showed horror at his mistake. He quickly picked up the tablet and bowed deeply to Tai-ho. Forgive me, he said rapidly. I was not watching my path. Please, tell me your name so I may formally apologize for this insult. Tai-ho felt many eyes on him. Even some of the nobles had paused to watch. He wanted to disappear. He wanted to be invisible again. It is nothing, he said quietly. No apology needed. But the official insisted. Please, I must know your name. Protocol demands it. Tai-ho sighed. Kang Tai-ho. The official bowed again. I apologize, Kang Tai-ho. I am shamed by my carelessness. The official hurried away. The nobles returned to their conversations. The moment passed, but something had changed. At the far end of the hall, on her throne of white stone, Empress Selen had stopped speaking. She was looking toward the small group of humans by the wall. Her dark eyes were focused now, sharp and searching. She raised one hand, and the entire hall fell silent. You there, her voice carried across the chamber like a bell. The human who just spoke. Come forward. Tai-ho's heart stopped. Captain June and the others looked at him with wide eyes. Every being in the hall turned to stare at the young human cargo handler who had somehow drawn the attention of the Empress herself. Go, Captain June whispered. Do not keep her waiting. Tai-ho walked forward on legs that felt like stone. The crowd parted before him. The distance to the throne seemed to stretch. Great Hall was empty now. The silence was so complete that Tai-ho could hear his own heartbeat. It sounded too loud in the vast space. He stood before the Empress of 200 worlds, and he had no idea what to say. Empress Selen studied him with eyes that had seen 4 centuries of history. She looked at his face, his hands, his simple worker's clothes. She was searching for something. Perhaps she was looking for traces of his mother in his features. You have her eyes, she finally said. The same shape. The same quiet strength behind them. Tai-ho did not know how to respond. Thank you, Your Imperial Majesty. The Empress shook her head slowly. You do not need to use such formal titles. Not you. Not the son of Kang Yuna. She paused. You may call me Selen, at least when we are alone. This was wrong. This was impossible. A cargo handler calling the Empress by her first name? It went against every rule of the Valari Empire. But Tai-ho could see that she meant it. I do not understand, he said honestly. You speak of my mother as if she was someone important. But she was just a farmer. She lived a simple life on Earth. She raised vegetables and kept chickens. She was not anyone special. Selen smiled, but there was sadness in it. Sit with me. There is much you do not know, and it is time you learn the truth. She led him to a small seating area near one of the crystal pillars. 2 chairs made of something that looked like silver but felt soft as cloth. Tai-ho sat down carefully, afraid he might break something. The Empress sat across from him. She folded her hands in her lap and looked at him with an expression he could not read. 30 years ago, she began, I was not yet Empress. My mother still held the throne. I was Crown Princess, young and foolish and certain that I understood the universe. She paused, gathering her thoughts. There was a rebellion. A group called the Crimson Dawn rose against the Empire. They believed that the Valari had grown soft, that we had forgotten our warrior past. They wanted to return to the old ways, when we conquered rather than traded, when we took rather than asked. Tai-ho listened carefully. He had read about the Crimson Rebellion in school, but only the basic facts. a civil war that had nearly torn the empire apart. It had lasted 5 years and killed millions. The rebels attacked the palace, Selen continued. They had help from inside. Guards who had been bought. Officials who had been turned. They came in the night, and they came for my mother. Her voice grew quieter. I was with her when they broke through the doors. There were 20 of them. Trained killers with weapons that could cut through any armor. My mother's guards fought bravely, but they fell one by one. Soon, only my mother and I remained trapped in her chambers with enemies all around us. Selen's hands tightened in her lap. I was certain we would die. I had made my peace with it. But then something happened. Something impossible. She looked at Teho. A human woman appeared. She was small, barely half the height of a Valari warrior. She wore simple clothes, stained with blood that was not her own. She carried no weapon that I could see, and she walked into that room full of killers as if she belonged there. Teho's breath caught in his throat. My mother? Selen nodded. I did not know her name then. I did not know how she had gotten into the palace or how she had found us. I only knew that she stood between us and death. What happened? She fought them. All 20 of them. I still do not understand how. She moved like water, like wind. Every strike they threw, she turned aside. Every attack they made, she redirected. She did not use force against them. She used their own force against themselves. Selen's eyes grew distant, lost in memory. One by one, they fell. Not dead, but broken. Arms that would not work. Legs that would not support them. She disabled them all without killing a single one. In less than 5 minutes, 20 of the deadliest warriors in the rebellion were lying on the floor, helpless as infants. Teho could not believe what he was hearing. His mother? The quiet woman who grew tomatoes and read books by candlelight? The woman who had never raised her voice in anger? That cannot be, he said. My mother was gentle. She hated violence. She would not even kill the bugs in her garden. Perhaps that is who she became, Selen said softly. But that night, she was something else. Something fierce and unstoppable. She saved my life and my mother's life. She changed the course of history. The Empress stood and walked to one of the tall windows. Outside, the purple sky was darkening toward evening. The guards arrived minutes later. The attack had been contained. The rebellion pushed back. When the chaos settled, I looked for the human woman who had saved us. I wanted to thank her. I wanted to give her anything she wanted. She turned back to face Teho, but she was gone. She had slipped away while we were distracted. I sent searchers throughout the palace, throughout the capital, throughout the entire empire. I offered rewards that could have bought a planet, but she had vanished like smoke. Teho tried to process all of this. His mother, a hero of the Valari Empire. His mother, a warrior who could defeat 20 trained killers. His mother, who had kept all of this secret for his entire life. Why would she hide? He asked. If what you say is true, she could have had anything. Wealth, power, honor. Why would she choose to be a farmer on Earth? Selen returned to her seat. That is what I have wondered for 30 years. I had theories. Perhaps she was running from something. Perhaps she had enemies who would find her if she accepted recognition. Perhaps she simply did not want the burden that comes with being a hero. She reached out and took Teho's hand. Her touch was cool, like smooth stone. Or perhaps she wanted to give her son a normal life. A life without the weight of expectation. A life where he could be himself, not the child of a legend. Teho felt tears forming in his eyes. He blinked them away. She never told me. She never even hinted at any of this. She just taught me to work hard and be kind. She said that was all anyone needed to do in life. She was wise, Selen said. Wiser than I was at her age. Wiser than many who have lived 10 times as long. They sat in silence for a moment. Teho's mind was spinning with questions. So many things about his mother suddenly made sense. The way she moved, always so smooth and balanced. The way she could catch falling objects before they hit the ground. The way she sometimes stared at the stars at night with a look he could not understand. How did she get into the palace that night? Teho asked. How did she know you were in danger? Selen shook her head. I do not know. The security records from that night were damaged in the fighting. I have theories, but no answers. Perhaps she was already in the palace as a worker or a visitor. Perhaps she saw the attack beginning and chose to act. Perhaps she had been watching and waiting for some reason I cannot imagine. Did you ever learn her name? Only later. One of the injured rebels, when questioned, said he had heard her speak a single word during the fight. A name, perhaps. Yuna. Selen smiled sadly. It took years to connect that name to a human woman from Earth. By then, she had already built a new life, and I did not want to disturb it. Teho looked up sharply. You knew where she was? I discovered her location about 15 years ago. She was living on a small farm in a country called Korea. She had a son, a boy of about 10 years old. She seemed happy. 15 years ago. That would have been when Teho was 10. The same year his mother had spoken briefly about being in space. You watched us? From a distance. Through intermediaries. I wanted to meet her, to thank her properly, but I also respected her choice to remain hidden. She had clearly chosen that life for a reason. Who was I to force her back into a role she had abandoned? Selen's grip on his hand tightened. But when she died, 5 years ago, I felt the loss deeply. A debt unpaid. A thank you never spoken. I thought I would carry that weight forever. And now, here you stand. Teho understood now why the Empress had reacted so strongly to his name. For 30 years, his mother had been a mystery to her. A ghost. A savior who wanted no recognition. And now, finally, Selen had found a connection to that woman. Through him. What do you want from me? Teho asked carefully. I am not my mother. I cannot fight like her. I am just a cargo handler. I move boxes. Selen released his hand and leaned back in her chair. I want nothing from you except the chance to repay my debt. Your mother saved my life. She saved the Empire. Without her, the Crimson Dawn would have killed me and my mother that night. The rebellion might have succeeded. Billions of lives could have been lost. She looked at him with those ancient eyes. Tell me about her. You about her. Tell me about the woman she became. Tell me about Kang Yuna the farmer, the mother, the quiet woman who kept vegetables and chickens. I want to know her, even if only through your memories. Teho felt something shift inside him. The weight of grief that he had carried for 5 years suddenly felt different. Lighter somehow. His mother had been more than he ever knew, but she had also been exactly what she seemed. A woman who chose love over glory, peace over power, family over fame. He began to talk. He told the Empress about his childhood on the farm, about waking up early to collect eggs and water the plants, about his mother teaching him to read under the big tree in their yard, about her terrible singing voice and her wonderful cooking, about the way she smiled away. Teho woke to sunlight that was not quite right. It was purple instead of yellow. For a moment, he did not know where he was. Then the memories came flooding back. The palace. The Empress. His mother. He sat up in a bed that was far too large and far too soft. The room around him was bigger than his entire house on Earth. Crystal walls let in the purple morning light. Furniture made of materials he could not name filled the space. A window looked out over gardens that seemed to go on forever. This is not my life, he thought. I do not belong here. But here he was. A soft chime sounded, and a door slid open. A young Velari female entered, carrying a tray of food. She had pale blue skin and kind eyes. She bowed deeply when she saw that Teho was awake. Good morning, honored guest. I am Nara. I have been assigned to serve you during your stay. Teho felt uncomfortable. You do not need to serve me. I can take care of myself. Nara smiled. The Empress was specific. You are to be treated as a member of the Imperial family. That means servants, meals, and anything else you require. I am not a member of the Imperial family. I am a cargo handler. You are the son of the woman who saved Her Imperial Majesty's life. That makes you very important indeed. Nara set the tray down on a nearby table. Please eat. The Empress wishes to see you in 1 hour. Teho looked at the food. Strange fruits and colors he had never seen. Bread that smelled sweet and warm. A drink that sparkled like liquid stars. He had never seen such luxury. Thank you, Nara. The servant bowed again and left. Teho ate slowly, thinking about everything that had happened. His simple delivery mission had turned into something he could not have imagined. He was being treated like royalty because of something his mother did 30 years ago. His mother. The more he learned about her, the less he felt he had known her. After eating, he found clothes waiting for him. Simple but fine, made of fabric that felt like water against his skin. He dressed and looked at himself in a mirror that showed his reflection from every angle. He looked the same. Dark hair, average height, ordinary face. Nothing special. Nothing that showed any connection to the legendary woman who had saved an Empress. Nara returned exactly 1 hour later. She led him through corridors that seemed to go on forever. Past rooms filled with wonders he could barely understand. Finally, they reached a small garden inside the palace. Trees with silver leaves grew around a pool of still water. The Empress sat on a bench, watching fish swim in slow circles. Leave us, Selen said to Nara. The servant bowed and departed. Teho approached and bowed. Good morning, Your Imperial Majesty. I told you to call me Selen. She patted the bench beside her. Sit. We have much to discuss. He sat. The bench was warm from the sunlight. The garden was peaceful. It was hard to believe that he was at the center of one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. I spoke with my advisors this morning, Selen said. They were quite surprised to learn about you. The story of your mother has become something of a legend among those who know it. To have her son appear after all these years is considered significant. I did not mean to cause trouble. You have caused no trouble. You have caused the opposite of trouble. She turned to look at him. I want to honor you, Teho. I want to give you what I could never give your mother. Wealth, position, a place in my court. You could live the rest of your life in comfort and luxury. Teho had expected this. He had thought about it all night. I thank you, Selen, but I cannot accept. The Empress raised an eyebrow. You refuse? My mother refused. She could have had anything, and she chose to go home and plant tomatoes. She must have had a reason. I think... He paused, trying to find the right words. I think she did not want to be important. She wanted to be good. Those are different things. Selen was quiet for a long moment. The fish swam in their endless circles. The silver leaves rustled in a gentle wind. You are very like her, she finally said. The same stubbornness. The same quiet strength. I am not strong. Not like her. There are many kinds of strength, Teho. Your mother's strength was in her body and her spirit. Your strength is in your heart. You know who you are. You know what matters. In a universe that tries to make people forget such things, that is rare and precious. She stood and walked to the edge of the pool. If you will not accept honors for yourself, will you accept something for others? What do you mean? The humans. Selen looked back at him. Your people. They are struggling in this galaxy. They are new, weak, often exploited by older races who see them as simple creatures to be used. Taeho knew this was true. Human traders were often cheated. Human colonies were often ignored. Humans had few friends among the stars. What could you do for them? Much. The Valari Empire is powerful. Our word carries weight. If I were to declare humans to be under our protection, others would think twice before mistreating them. If I were to establish fair trade agreements, human merchants could prosper instead of merely survive. Taeho stood and joined her by the pool. You would do this? For humans? I would do it to honor your mother. She was human. She saved my life without asking for anything in return. The least I can do is help her people. Taeho felt something stir in his chest. This was bigger than him. Bigger than his mother. This could change things for millions of people. I do not speak for all humans, he said carefully. I am nobody important. I cannot make agreements or promises. I know. But you can carry a message. You can tell your leaders what I offer. You can be the bridge between our peoples. Why me? Selen smiled. Because you are honest. Because you do not want power or wealth. Because the son of Kang Yuna would never betray his mother's memory by acting with greed or selfishness. You are the perfect messenger precisely because you do not want to be one. Taeho thought about Captain June and the crew. He thought about all the human traders who struggled to make fair deals. He thought about the colonists on distant worlds who lived in fear of alien powers who saw them as beneath notice. If I agreed to carry your message, what would happen? I would prepare a formal proposal. Trade agreements, protection guarantees, diplomatic recognition. I would give it to you, and you would bring it to Earth. Your government could accept, negotiate, or refuse. The choice would be theirs. And what would you want in return? Selen's eyes sparkled with something that might have been amusement. Your mother saved my life and asked for nothing. Perhaps I am trying to be like her. Perhaps I want to give something freely, without conditions, without expectations. She reached out and touched his shoulder. But also, I see something in humans that others do not see. You are young as a species. You make mistakes. You can be violent and foolish. But you can also be kind, brave, and selfless. Your mother showed me that. You have shown me that. I believe humans have a future in this galaxy, and I would like to help them reach it. Taeho made his decision. I will carry your message. Selen's face lit up with a smile that made her look centuries younger. Good. Very good. I will have my advisors begin preparing the documents immediately. She took his arm and began walking through the garden. In the meantime, I would like you to stay at the palace. There are things I want to show you. Places I want you to see. And perhaps, if you are willing, you could tell me more about your mother. I would be honored. They walked together through the silver trees. Taeho thought about how strange life could be. He had come to this planet expecting to unload some boxes and leave. Instead, he had discovered his mother's secret past and found himself carrying the hopes of his entire species. Over the next several days, the Empress showed him her world. She took him to the great library, where records of millions of years were kept in crystal containers. She showed him the gardens of memory, where flowers grew from the ashes of honored dead. She introduced him to scholars, artists, and warriors who bowed to him because of his mother's name. Taeho was uncomfortable with the attention, but he endured it. He understood that this was not really about him. It was about honoring Kang Yuna, about finally giving recognition to the woman who had wanted none in return. He told Selen everything he could remember about his mother. Small things mostly. The way she hummed while cooking. The book she liked to read. the games they played together when he was young. Each memory seemed precious to the Empress, who listened with complete attention. "She sounds happy," Selen said one evening. They were sitting in her private chambers, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and red. "The life she chose. It sounds like it made her happy." "I think it did," Taiho agreed. "She was never wealthy. Our farm was small, and we never had more than we needed. But she smiled often. She laughed. She seemed at peace. That is more than many achieve, regardless of their wealth or power." Selen sipped from a cup of warm tea. "I have been Empress for 400 years. I have everything anyone could want. But peace? True happiness? Those have been harder to find. Are you lonely?" Taiho asked. It was a bold question, perhaps too bold. But the Empress had asked him to be honest. She considered the question seriously. "Sometimes. Being Empress means being apart. I cannot have ordinary friendships. I cannot have ordinary loves. Everyone who approaches me wants something. Everyone has an agenda. It is exhausting. My mother used to say that loneliness was a choice, that we could always reach out to others if we were brave enough." Wise words, but easier said than done when you rule 200 world. The documents were ready on the 7th day. Te-Ho stood in the Empress's official chambers, surrounded by advisors, diplomats, and military officers. They all watched as Selen presented him with a sealed case made of crystal and silver. "Inside this case," she announced to the gathered assembly, "are the terms of a historic agreement. The Valari Empire offers humanity full diplomatic recognition, protected trade status, and a guarantee of safety within our borders. These terms are unprecedented in our history. Never before have we extended such generosity to a species so young." The advisors shifted uncomfortably. Not all of them approved of this decision. Taiho could see the doubt in their eyes. Why should the great Valari Empire treat humans as equals? What had humanity done to deserve such honor? But none of them spoke against their Empress. "Kang Taiho will carry these documents to Earth," Selen continued. "He will present them to the human government. They may accept, negotiate, or refuse. The choice is theirs. But let it be known that this offer is sincere and without hidden conditions." She turned to Taiho. "You carry the hopes of two peoples in your hands. I know you will handle them with care." Taiho took the case. It was lighter than he expected. Such a small thing to hold such large consequences. "I will not fail you," he said. "I know." The ceremony ended. The advisors and officers filed out, already whispering among themselves about this strange turn of events. Soon, only Taiho, Selen, and her most trusted aide remained. The aide was an older Valari named Counselor Hyamsu. He had served the throne for 300 years. His expression was calm, but his eyes showed concern. "Your Imperial Majesty," he said carefully, "may I speak freely?" "You may. There are those in the court who question this decision. They believe humans are not ready for such responsibility. They worry that we are giving too much to a species that has not proven itself. I am aware of their concerns. And yet you proceed anyway." Selen smiled. "Do you remember the Crimson Rebellion, old friend?" "I remember it well. I was in the eastern provinces during the worst of the fighting." "Then you remember how close we came to destruction, how the Empire nearly fell. And you remember the stories of how I was saved. The human woman, yes, but your Imperial Majesty, one human acting heroically does not mean all humans are worthy of such trust." Selen walked to a window and looked out at our empire. "You are right, of course. One person does not represent an entire species. But that one person showed me something important. She showed me that humans have potential. The same fire that drives them to violence can also drive them to incredible acts of love and courage." She turned back to face her aide. I am not giving this gift blindly. I have watched humanity for 3 decades. I have seen their mistakes, their wars, their failures. But I have also seen their art, their science, their determination. They fall down often, but they always get back up. That is rare in this galaxy. Counselor Hyan Su bowed his head. As you command, Your Imperial Majesty. I do not command you to agree with me. I only ask that you trust my judgment. I have trusted your judgment for 300 years. I will not stop now. He bowed again and left. Taeho was alone with the Empress once more. Not everyone will accept this easily, Selen said. Even within my own court, there will be resistance. Some will say I am being sentimental. Others will say I am showing weakness. Are you worried? A little. But I have been Empress long enough to know that the right choice is not always the popular choice. Sometimes you must act according to your conscience and trust that time will prove you right. She walked over to Taeho and placed her hands on his shoulders. Your journey home will not be easy. The journey home will not be easy. Word of what I have done will spread quickly. There are those who will try to stop you. Those who do not want humans to gain power and protection. Taeho felt a chill run down his spine. You think I will be in danger? I think you should be careful. I have arranged for your ship to be escorted by Valari warships until you reach human space. After that, you will be on your own. I understand. Do you? Selen's eyes were serious. This is not a game, Taeho. There are factions in this galaxy who benefit from keeping humans weak. Traders who profit from unfair deals. Empires who see humanity as a resource to be exploited. They will not welcome this change. Taeho thought about his crew. Captain Jun, Navigator Su Min, Engineer Hyan. They were good people who had signed up for a simple cargo run. Now they were caught up in galactic politics that could get them killed. I should warn my crew. They have already been informed. Captain Jun has agreed to continue. He said, and I quote, I have been waiting my whole life for humans to matter in this galaxy. I am not going to miss the chance to help make that happen. Taeho smiled despite his worry. That sounded like Captain Jun. When do we leave? Tomorrow morning. I would have you stay longer, but time is important. The longer you remain here, the more chance there is for interference. They spent the rest of the day in the gardens, walking among the silver trees one last time. Selen told him stories about the early days of the Valari Empire, about the mistakes they had made as a young species and the lessons they had learned. Taeho listened carefully. He knew that humanity would need that wisdom in the years to come. As evening fell, they shared one final meal together. The food was simple by palace standards, but still more luxurious than anything Taeho had eaten in his life. I will miss these conversations, Selen said. It has been a long time since I had someone to talk to who was not afraid of me. I was terrified of you at first. I know, but you overcame it. That is what I mean. Most people never overcome their fear. They stay afraid forever. You found your courage. My mother taught me that fear was natural, but letting fear control you was a choice. More wisdom from Kang Yuna. Selen raised her cup. To your mother. To the woman who saved me and changed the course of history. May her memory guide you home safely. Taeho raised his own cup. To my mother. They drank. The purple wine was sweet and warm. There is one more thing, Selen said. She reached into her robe and pulled out a small object. It was a ring, simple in design but clearly ancient. A band of silver with a small blue stone set into it. This belonged to my mother. She was wearing it the night of the attack. Your mother was holding her hand when the rebels burst in. After the fight, when we realized your mother had gone, we found this ring on the floor near where she had stood. She must have taken it off my mother's finger during the chaos, perhaps as proof of what had happened. Selen pressed the ring into Taeho's hand, but she left it behind. She did not even take this small token. I have kept it all these years, hoping to return it to her someday. Now I give it to you. A piece of that night. A connection between our families. Taeho looked at the ring. It was small in his palm. Such a little thing to carry so much meaning. I cannot accept this. It is too valuable. It is exactly as valuable as I say it is. And I say it belongs with you. He closed his fingers around the ring. Thank you, Selen, for everything. Thank your mother. Everything I've done has been because of her. The next morning, Taeho stood on the landing platform beside his ship. The crew was already on board, making final preparations for departure. 4 Valari warships waited in orbit, ready to escort them home. Empress Selen had come to see him off personally. This caused quite a stir among the palace staff. An Empress did not normally say farewell to a cargo handler. But Selen had never been a normal Empress. Remember what I told you, she said. Be careful. Trust your instincts. And do not let anyone take what you carry. I will protect it with my life. I hope it does not come to that. But I am glad to know you would. She pulled him into an embrace, shocking everyone who watched. Go well, son of Yuna. Carry your mother's legacy with pride. I will. He walked up the ramp into the ship. At the top, he turned for one last look. Selen stood alone on the platform, her white robes moving gently in the morning wind. She raised one hand in farewell. Taeho raised his own hand in return. The ramp closed. The engines hummed to life. And the ship rose into the purple sky, leaving the palace behind. In the cockpit, Captain June was at the controls. Navigator Su-min monitored their course. Engineer Heian checked the engine readings. Escort ships are in formation, Su-min reported. We have a clear path to the jump point. Good. Captain June glanced back at Taeho. How are you feeling? Strange, overwhelmed, a little scared. Good. That means you understand what we are doing. The old captain turned back to the controls. I have been flying cargo ships for 30 years. I have hauled everything from food to weapons to expensive artwork. But this might be the most important cargo I have ever carried. Taeho sat down in his usual seat, the crystal case on his lap. Do you think Earth will accept the agreement? I think they would be fools not to. But politicians can be foolish sometimes. June shrugged. Either way, we did our part. We brought the offer. What happens next is not up to us. The ship accelerated toward the jump point. The planet fell away behind them, becoming smaller and smaller until it was just another dot among the stars. Taeho looked down at the case in his hands. Inside were words that could change history. Promises that could lift humanity from obscurity to respectability. Opportunities that generations of humans ha. The journey through Valari space was peaceful. The 4 warships stayed close, their presence a warning to anyone who might think about interfering. Taeho spent most of his time in his cabin, reviewing the documents inside the crystal case. The language was formal and complex, but the meaning was clear. The Valari Empire was offering humanity a gift beyond measure, but gifts often came with expectations. Taeho wondered what would happen when humans proved themselves imperfect, when they made mistakes, when they failed to live up to the image that Selen seemed to have of them. He tried not to think about it too much. His job was to deliver the documents. What happened after that was beyond his control. On the 5th day, they reached the edge of Valari space. The warship slowed and dropped out of formation. This is as far as we go, the lead captain announced over the communication system. Beyond this point, you are in neutral territory. Be careful, humans. Not everyone wishes you well. Thank you for your protection, Captain June replied. Thank the Empress. And thank the one you carry. His mother saved our ruler's life. We repay our debts." The warships turned and vanished into the darkness. The small cargo vessel was alone. 2 days to the Sol system, Navigator Su Min reported. "I have plotted a course that avoids the major trade routes. Fewer chances for trouble." "Good thinking," Captain June said. "Everyone stay alert. We are in the dangerous part now." The ship pushed forward into the void. Trouble came on the second day. They were 4 hours from the final jump to Sol when sensors detected 3 ships approaching fast. They were not Velari. They were not human. Their design was unfamiliar, angular, and dark. "Unknown vessels," Su Min announced. "They are on an intercept course. Try to hail them." June ordered. Su-Min sent the standard greeting. There was no response. "They are arming weapons," Engineer Hyan said quietly. He had moved to the sensor console, his usual frown deeper than ever. Tae-Ho stood in the doorway of the cockpit, the crystal case clutched against his chest. "Who are they?" "I do not know. But they do not seem friendly." June's hands moved across the controls. "Su Min, plot a jump. Emergency coordinates. Anywhere but here. I need time to calculate." "You do not have time. Make your best guess." The first shot hit their shields. The ship shook. Warning lights began to flash. "Shields holding," Hyan reported. But not for long. Tae-Ho watched as the 3 dark ships grew larger on the display screen. They moved with perfect coordination, surrounding the cargo vessel like wolves around a wounded deer. Another shot. The shields flickered. "Jump coordinates ready," Su Min shouted. "But it will put us off course. I do not know where we will end up. Anywhere is better than here. Do it." The third shot hit just as Su Min activated the jump drive. The universe twisted around them. Stars became lines, became nothing, became everything. When reality snapped back into place, alarms were screaming. "Engine damage," Hyan announced. "We are not going anywhere fast. Where are we?" June demanded. Su-Min checked her instruments. Her face went pale. "We are in human space. Just barely. But we are still 3 days from Sol at our current speed." "And our friends?" "No sign of them. The jump worked. We lost them." Relief flooded through Tae-Ho. But it did not last long. "The damage is serious," Hyan said. "I can keep us moving, but if those ships find us again, we cannot run. Then we keep moving and hope they do not find us." The next 3 days were the longest of Tae-Ho's life. The ship limped through human space, its engine coughing and struggling. Every few hours, Su Min would check the sensors for signs of pursuit. Every time, the screen was empty, but the fear never went away. On the 3rd day, they finally saw it. Earth, a blue and green marble hanging in the darkness. Home. Tae-Ho stood at the window and stared at his planet. He had left it as a nobody, a cargo handler with no future and no past worth mentioning. He was returning as something else. What exactly, he did not know. "We are receiving hails from orbital control," Su Min said. "They want to know who we are and what we are carrying." Captain June looked at Tae-Ho. "You should probably answer this one." Tae-Ho took a deep breath. He walked to the communication console and opened the channel. "This is Kang Tae-Ho, citizen of Earth, aboard the cargo vessel Dawn Runner. I carry official documents from Empress Selen of the Velari Empire. I request immediate landing permission and an audience with government leaders." There was a long silence. Then a voice came back, confused and uncertain. "Did you say Empress Selen? Of the Velari Empire?" "Yes, please hold." They held for nearly an hour. Then a different voice came on the line. This one was older, more authoritative. "Kang Tae-Ho, This is Director Choi Sang-woo of the United Earth Space Agency. We have received your message. A landing zone is being prepared for you at the Seoul Spaceport. You will be met by government representatives and security personnel. Do not deviate from your assigned course. Understood, Director? And Taeho, whatever you are carrying, I hope it is real, because you have just thrown our entire government into chaos. The line went dead. The landing was smooth despite the damaged engine. Hyon had worked miracles to keep the ship flying. As the landing struts touched the ground, Taeho felt something shift inside him. He was home. He was safe, but his mission was not over. The hatch opened to reveal a crowd of people. Government officials in formal suits. Military officers in crisp uniforms. Reporters with cameras and microphones. Behind them, thousands of ordinary citizens who had come to see what was happening. Taeho walked down the ramp, the crystal case in his hands. The crowd fell silent. A woman stepped forward. She was tall, with gray hair and sharp eyes. Her name badge read President Yoon Da-hee. You are Kang Tae-ho? Yes, Madam President. And you claim to carry documents from the Valari Empress? I do not claim it. I state it as fact. He held out the crystal case. These documents contain an offer of alliance between the Valari Empire and humanity. Trade agreements. Protection guarantees. Full diplomatic recognition. The president took the case. She examined it for a long moment. Why would the Valari give us such an offer? We are nothing to them. Taeho thought about his mother, about the Empress, about everything that had happened. 30 years ago, my mother saved the Empress's life. She asked for nothing in return. She came home and raised me in silence. The Empress has been searching for her ever since. When she discovered that I was my mother's son, she decided to honor my mother's memory by helping humanity. The president stared at him. Your mother saved the Valari Empress? Who was your mother? Kang Yuna, a farmer from Korea, a woman who never told anyone about what she had done. The crowd began to murmur. Reporters were speaking rapidly into their microphones. The whole world was watching. President Yoon opened the crystal case and examined the documents inside. Her eyes widened as she read. This is extraordinary. These terms are better than anything we could have hoped for. The Empress said she wanted to give humans a chance to prove ourselves, a chance to become something more than what we are. The president looked up at him. And what do you want, Kang Tae-ho? You have brought us this gift. What do you ask in return? Tae-ho smiled. He thought about his mother's quiet smile, her simple life, her choice to be good rather than important. Nothing. My mother asked for nothing, and neither will I. I am just a cargo handler. I was just doing my job. The president laughed. It was a surprised, delighted laugh. You really are your mother's son. She handed the documents to an aide and extended her hand. Kang Tae-ho, on behalf of all humanity, thank you. You have changed our future. Tae-ho shook her hand. Behind him, his crew walked down the ramp. Captain Jun, Navigator Soo-min, Engineer Hyon. They had risked their lives for this moment. They deserved recognition, too. Thank my crew, Tae-ho said. I could not have done this without them. The president nodded and turned to greet the others. The crowd began to cheer. Cameras flashed. Somewhere, a band started playing. Tae-ho stepped aside and let the others have the spotlight. He found a quiet spot away from the chaos and looked up at the sky. The stars were hidden by daylight, but he knew they were there. Billions of them. Countless worlds. A galaxy full of wonders. And now humanity had a chance to be part of it. He took his mother's ring from his pocket and held it up to the light. The blue stone sparkled. I did it, Mom, he whispered. I brought your gift home. The wind carried his words away. And somewhere, perhaps, his mother heard them. Months later, when the treaties were signed and humanity took its first steps into the larger galactic community, historians would look back at this moment. They would call it the beginning of humanity's golden age. They would write books about Empress Selen's generosity and President Yoon's wisdom. But the history books always began with the same story. The story of a woman named Kang Yuna who walked into a room full of killers and saved an empress. The story of her son who carried her legacy across the stars. The story of a simple act of courage that changed everything. Taeho never sought fame or fortune. He returned to his farm in Korea and grew vegetables just as his mother had. He lived quietly and simply. People came from all over the world to meet him, but he always turned them away with a polite smile. "I am nobody special," he would say. "I was just doing my job." Only Empress Selen visited him regularly. Once a year, she would travel from her palace to his small farm.